What's up, everybody? My name's Inadel, and this is Jessie, and we are going to be diving into the shadow of Aries today.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that, Jessie?
Well, I feel like Aries is a planet that has a lot of positive traits, and a lot of these traits are really valued in society. One of the shadow traits of Aries would be narcissism, in my opinion. A tendency to be very self-absorbed and selfish. I've seen this in different Aries I've met in my life we don't want to just use Aries as like a sun sign. Like we're talking about like Aries, it could be the moon, it can be the Mars, it can be in different parts of the chart. But I've definitely seen narcissism and selfishness as some of the more shadow sides of Aries, the first things that come to my mind. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think I think there's like this the shadow of Aries is definitely hyper defense. Like it's as if it's like always going into battle or something, like ready to pounce or something like that. This kind of like sword at the ready vibe.
Yeah.
And or like almost like walking around doing this with the sword, like jabbing and like completely unnecessarily thinking it needs to be like kind of puffed up and defensive. Definitely I think the selfishness and but yeah, maybe more so like I think I keep going back to that defensive, like that I don't give a fuck, like it doesn't, like I don't really care about you anyway vibe.
Yeah, and also like they can be like a shadow for Aries is like insensitive and just really, I feel like their Aries can have a tendency to be sometimes insecure, but the way that they project that insecurity can be very aggressive and just like really like push it. It can kind of be like the bully, like it can kind of use the fact that it's this very physically dynamic and dominant type of person to almost just like push people away. And sometimes it can be unempathetic and just very like disregarding of more sensitive energies and people.
Definitely. And I think that too, I've come to know most of them tend to be older in age, so it might be some generational other outside influence. But I know a few Aries Sun Signs that almost seem really repressed somehow, and in that they do the whole room and lock themselves in their room routine, where it's like this like implosive quality. And I think that really could have a lot to do with upbringing. It definitely seems like something really shut that Aries down, and they just what's the word, like quiver, and there's like they can't stand the intensity.
So you're saying that there's certain Aries where they become super introverted almost, like they're like afraid of the world in a sense?
Yeah, it's like they are afraid of maybe what they'll do, so they hide.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You see that more in like older Aries. That's crazy.
I tend to see it more in older Aries, and I think it must have to do with like corporal punishment and stuff.
Wow. Interesting.
Potentially. But I have seen qualities emerge in younger Aries as well.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, because like Aries, like there's so much positivity, and like we're saying, like this video series we're doing is all about the shadow side, because we often are always speaking of like the good side of a sign, so we're really trying to shed light for each sign on the shadow, not to make it look like we're like bashing Aries, but yeah, there's tons. I think for Aries, it's really important in my experience once they start like getting into like things like psychotherapy or spirituality and start developing that side of themselves, because like if they, like for example, if like a Cancer has insecurities, right? Someone who has a lot of Cancer has insecurities. They're going to keep that to themselves, They're not going to be like screwing other people over and like really just like letting it out in their environment like an Aries is, because Aries is the most physically dominant sign. So it can just lead to so much destruction, hurt feelings, and really it's just like, they're feeling insecure and it's all their own stuff, but they're just putting it on other people.
Yeah, it's definitely it seems to me like a good mantra for the Aries is like mind over matter or something. Mind over matter, definitely kind of maybe even mantras and like even just like meditating at all. Some sort of pointed focus, learning how to channel that aggression or that rage. Was there something else I wanted to say? That's it for now. So I can. Yeah. Oh wait. Oh yeah. No. The shadow of potentially even like the higher aspects of Aries as well. Like there's a lot of unlived life qualities about signs that aren't lived up to either, because it's not typical that someone even reaches that state of awareness. What would that be, you think, for Aries?
That's a good question. I just think that Aries, they're meant to be leaders a lot of the time. They're meant to be people who step up and who deliver. And I think there can be a lot of pressure that's put on them in that type of way. They probably had childhoods where they were like a lot of high expectations. And this is not everyone, obviously, but like where there's lots of high expectations. Does that ring a bell?
I think so. I guess when I try to imagine like the unlived life of an Aries, I definitely think it goes back to what we already discussed with like the bullying factor, maybe like taking things out on others where you're not stepping into your own power. You're almost just you're only reacting to what's around you instead of kind of really truly stepping into that and becoming that, like you said, that leadership role. That like more of like that like that spiritual warrior, the peaceful warrior,
Totally. And obviously with Aries, a big thing's independence too and freedom,
Totally.
So if that's pushed away, then that can lead to a lot. But one other thing I thought of two things. So one, I think we impulsivity is another big shadow, like Aries it's fire and it just can act without thinking, and that can get them in trouble, and that can be a big thing with the sign. But really where my mind was going was the opposite sign. Like what can we learn from the opposite sign of Aries, Libra? Cooperation, like actually, so you can look at the opposite sign for clues of how to, heal the shadow of one sign. And I think of Libra as, cooperation, like thinking about someone else's point of view as opposed to just acting on your own.
I love that. Totally. Yeah. How to harmonize your impulses, or how to merge into a situation with others more mindfully. Yeah,
just like learning from that sign of, because we'll talk about the shadow of Libra in the video we do for that, but a lot of that has to do with people pleasing, and it's almost like, I'm not saying that Aries people please and like, put others over yourself, but, like start looking at things from other people's perspective, like gain that in your toolbox. And I think that can really, really help people who are suffering from that shadow side of Aries.
Totally. I wonder how many Aries with a like a sort of complex or shadow would actually take this information to heart.
Yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive, huh? Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, I feel pretty complete. Do you think there's anything that you haven't said that you'd like to say about this?
I'm sure I'll think of it later, but I think this is good for now.
Cool. Well, anyways, anyone who watches this video, like, feel free to leave a comment if there's anything we missed out on, anything we left out, any questions. We would love to hear from you. And thank you very much.